Have you ever wondered what would happen to our world if electricity just vanished? All of it, in a single heartbeat. In 1859, the sun unleashed the Carrington Event, the most powerful solar storm ever recorded. Within just 17 hours, a massive wave of solar plasma slammed into our atmosphere. Auroras blazed as far south as the tropics, and telegraph lines, the internet of the 19th century, hissed, sparked, and burst into flames. The accounts from that night were surreal. Telegraph operators across the globe disconnected their batteries entirely, yet they continued to send messages using nothing but the raw, phantom electricity surging through the atmosphere. For a few haunting hours, the planet itself had become a giant, uncontrollable power plant. But the world of today is not the world of 1859. We live in a web of invisible energy. Satellites, nuclear plants, power grids, planes, high-speed trains, and massive cargo ships. Every single one of them is chained to electricity. So, what happens if a solar storm 100 times more powerful than the Carrington Event strikes us today? What happens when our digital heart simply stops? If a storm just 10 times more powerful than the Carrington Event hit us today, a phenomenon scientists call a Miyake event, the math becomes a death sentence. In 1859, thick copper wires merely hissed and sparked. But today, our survival depends on microscopic silicon. Inside a modern processor, transistors are separated by mere nanometers, designed to handle barely a single volt. The magnetic hammer of such a storm would induce a surge that instantly pierces these delicate paths, melting the silicon and turning billions of devices into high-tech garbage. Our digital heart wouldn't just skip a beat, it would stop. And then, the domino effect begins. The first casualties aren't on Earth. They are hundreds of miles above it. Satellite systems and the International Space Station are the front line, and they are completely defenseless. Without the shield of our atmosphere, a torrential rain of high-energy protons slams into their delicate hulls. On the ISS, those massive solar arrays suddenly turn into giant lightning rods. They surge with lethal currents, triggering cascading failures in life support and navigation systems in a matter of seconds. Meanwhile, the Starlink mega constellation begins to wither. It's not just a signal loss, it's a physical execution. The radiation causes single-event upsets, flipping bits in their logic and sending thousands of satellites into a blind, uncontrolled tumble. As the storm heats the upper atmosphere, it expands, grabbing these dead machines and dragging them down. In an instant, we lose our GPS, our global internet, and our eyes in the sky. The world has just gone blind. At any given second, over 15,000 commercial aircraft are soaring across the planet. They are the arteries of our global world, but in a heartbeat they are cut off. As the ionosphere collapses, long-range radio vanishes. But the true nightmare is happening inside the machines. Modern jet engines are controlled by FADEC, the digital brain of the turbine. When the solar surge hits, these microchips melt, the fuel pumps freeze, the valves lock, and the engines simply flame out. For the pilots of a modern Airbus or Boeing, there is no physical connection to the wings. It's all fly-by-wire. Without electricity, the flight controls are dead. These 100-ton masterpieces of engineering are no longer airplanes. They are powerless gliders, falling silently through a sky that is turned against them. On the ground, the greatest threat comes from the very systems designed to be our ultimate failsafe. We're talking about nuclear power plants. When the Miyake event hits, the physics will work perfectly. The scram system will trigger, dropping control rods into the core and stopping the chain reaction in seconds. But nuclear fuel cannot simply be turned off. It generates immense decay heat that must be cooled by circulating water for weeks. We rely on massive diesel generators for this, but these giants have a digital brain, the electronic control unit. If the solar surge fries these microchips, the pumps stay dead, the water stops moving, the clock starts ticking. This doesn't mean every reactor will explode. Humanity is not doomed. At many stations, engineers will fight a manual war, turning heavy steel valves by hand to keep the water flowing. Most will hold, but where automation was the only shield and manual override is impossible, synchronized meltdowns will begin. Just a few such disasters would turn a global blackout into a radioactive nightmare that will last for decades. The collapse ripples through every artery of our existence. In hospitals, backup generators might kick in, those old enough to lack fragile microchips, but they are a temporary reprieve. Thousands in intensive care are left counting the minutes until the fuel runs out and the silence becomes terminal. On the rails, high-speed trains slam into emergency braking, but without digital dispatchers, collisions are inevitable. Deep in the subways, tens of thousands are trapped in a suffocating darkness as the ventilation fails. At sea, massive cruise ships, cities on water, become powerless, drifting rafts. Imagine being stranded in the mid-ocean, in absolute darkness, on a ship that can no longer find its way home. In our megapolises, the flow of life grinds to a halt. Cars stall, power steering vanishes, and headlights go dark. Our highways turn into graveyards of steel, a landscape of endless collisions, gridlock, and total, unguided chaos. In those first minutes of the blackout, few realize that the faucet is now a dead end, that the supply chains for life-saving medicine have vanished, that the grocery stores, filled with food that spoils in hours, will never be restocked. Digital wealth, bank accounts, and cashless payments have evaporated into a graveyard of melted servers. The world we knew is dead. In its place, prehistoric laws are reclaiming the throne, and the only currency left is survival. But some things will still work. Old carburetor engines on trucks and tractors will roar to life as long as there is fuel. Coal-fired locomotives will chug back from the dead, and vintage planes will once again take to the sky. And one more thing remains: weapons. Brute force is still at humanity's disposal. How will vital resources like water be redistributed? How can authorities prevent looting and riots without communication and with worthless currency? Predicting this is nearly impossible, but let's imagine a path of hope, where total collapse is avoided and nuclear reactors are held stable. In this world, the great exodus begins. The cities, once our greatest achievement, become concrete traps. To survive, humanity must return to its roots, to the rivers, the forests, and the ancient art of the clan. The world will transform into a mosaic of fortified zones. The great exodus from megalopolises. Cities will wither away. Without functioning sewage or elevators, life on the 20th floor becomes impossible. People will flock to water. Rivers will become the new highways. Those who secure land near a clean source will become the new elite. The resurrection of castles and forts. Ancient fortresses in Europe and Asia will regain their strategic glory. Thick stone walls and 360-degree views are the best defense against looters. Where there are no castles, people will fortify grain elevators, warehouses, and old prisons. Global migration south. Winter in the north without heating is a death sentence. A massive drift toward the equator will begin, but there, conflict over fertile soil will ignite. Borders will cease to be lines on a map. They will become front lines. New feudalism and the rise of clans. Society will fragment into small cells of 50 to 150 people. The Dunbar's number, the maximum we can truly trust. These clans will be led by those who can provide security and repair the machines of the past. The barter economy. 3 things will replace money: fuel, clean water, and ammunition. Whoever controls an old steam engine or a stockpile of coal becomes a road king, the only link between isolated clans. Our digital empire fell in a single second. Now, we are left with the tools of our ancestors. Are you ready for the return of the Iron Age? Let's just hope that what if stays what if until the end.